Hi guys, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. We're doing
Good
great.
morning.
How are
Doing
you?
Good. It's afternoon here. I'm in Chicago, so it's 1 o'clock. But I wanted to be sensitive and say, hey, it's still morning there. You guys are still finishing breakfast and getting ready for the day. And although it looks like you guys have been up and ready to go for a long time, so
We've been
uh,
getting ready.
there you go. There you go. So I thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. I want to introduce you formally to our audience that will be watching this webcast in the future. So I'm super glad to get to spend some time talking with a husband and wife duo, Andrew and Laura, about their band, Three Pairs of Boots. They have a brand new album coming out on January 29th called Long Rider. And again, just thanks so much for taking this time to not only talk to us, but as the audience can see, you're going to do a little singing and playing for us. So that's wonderful. We really appreciate that.
All
Looking
right.
forward to
We're
it.
stoked to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm going to kind of start at the beginning and just kind of help people to get to know about your how this came together and your music and all the great things that are going on for you right now. Um, so if I understand correctly, the two of you met each other through like a singer wanted ad. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about how that came about, how what kind of happened there.
Sure. You want to take it?
Uh, well, I was on a songwriting project. I've had a studio in my house in various incarnations for many years. And I was working with a friend of mine who was a lyricist, and we needed a singer, so I placed an ad, and Laura was one of the 50 or so people that answered. And knowing how those things go, I did not have all these people come to my studio to audition. I
Right.
went to their houses and it's like,
Oh,
let's play each other, some music that you've done and we've done, so we can see if it's a good fit. And Laura was one of the two people that I actually invited to the studio to audition. And she came in, sang a song, 3 minutes, said, "You're hired." It was very obvious how great she was and what a natural she was. Is that how you remember it?
No.
well,
I, I'm sorry. Go
go,
ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I just remember that I, you lived in Mill Valley, and I drove out there at night, and and you told me specifically to enter through the backyard, and I just remember walking down that trail thinking, "Ah, this might be the last thing I ever do. Is this, I didn't know if it was
Yeah, the studio was on
safe,
the
but
studio was
I
on
was
the bottom
hoping.
floor, and the door into the studio was in the back of the house. So, yeah,
Okay.
But it
she
turned
was
out okay. He
she
was
Ah,
not
it
was
an
sure
axe
did, huh?
murderer or anything. Yeah, he was great.
no axe murderers lurking in the bushes.
uh, well, as I watched you guys talking, as I watched Andrew talking, I could just see Laura was glowing as you tell the story, and just thinking back to that because it's not that long ago this all happened. It's not that long ago, so the glow is there. She's hearing you tell that story again, and then she gave her take on that. That's really fun to kind of hear about that. And little did you know that you would gain a wife out of the situation. How did you know that would happen? You know what I mean? That kind of worked out pretty well for both of you.
Worked out pretty great. I think that a lot of musicians experienced the very quick intimacy that you get when you're playing in a band with people. You become good friends very quickly, and that was the case with us. And after about 6 months, it just kind of turned and went from good friends to a relationship that has lasted for a long time. We've done a lot of different musical things. We started out playing, kind of in a rock band, and yeah, it's been a journey, as it is usually for most musicians. That's why the theme of the album, Long Rider, kind of spoke to us just about our own journey. Being musicians kind of has felt like it's been a long ride.
And I learned what the definition of a long ride is. Well, at least the equestrian definition of a long ride. I'll talk about that a little bit later. When we talk specifically about the album, I'll bring that up. But it's that's a pretty interesting story about how Long Rider came together. We'll talk about it a little bit today. But I learned what a long rider in that world means. So that's interesting. I was going to ask you, can you remember, either one of you remember, like when that moment was when you felt like this is more than a musical partnership? I mean, there's always that friendship that that can blossom into something else. But like when you're
Oh,
sitting there
yeah.
saying, wait, this is more than just us singing and playing together. This is going to be something that's a little more lifelong and not just from a musical aspect.
I do remember one specific incident that sort of brought that about. I had a girlfriend at the time, and I chose not to spend New Year's Eve with her. Instead, I went to see the Tom Tom Club with Laura and the other person we were working with, the lyricist. And I went to see the show with them as opposed to hanging out with my then girlfriend on New
Right.
Year's Eve. Like, that was, you know, and then within the next week or two, I broke up with her, and
Yeah, I had nothing to do with any of that.
yeah.
By the way, we were not
Because
together. We were just
it
friends.
took a
Yeah.
couple, it took a couple more months before we actually truly
I'll tell you
crossed the
though, I
line.
mean, we were going to comedy shows together. We were going out and eating together. Andy is a mean-ass cook, and I still remember his stir-fried chicken. That was so fabulous. And you know how falling in love is. It's just so natural. And but I do remember when I was crushing on him, and we were still in the friend zone, and you had done something. You had hurt yourself or something, and he got stitches. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, I do
And
remember that.
we were at
And the wound had to be cleaned out.
to be cleaned out. And we were at rehearsal, and on the break, he's like, "Would you mind helping me with this?" And I remember being in this tiny little bathroom with him, cleaning out his little wound, and just feeling so in love. And that's when I knew for sure. It's like, oh boy, take my temperature. I got that.
That's so great. It's so neat to hear that from both of you, the different perspectives. It doesn't always happen at that very same moment. It's like things just happen along the path where you're like, oh, this is really something special. And it's really so neat to see that. I can see it in your music. I can see it in our conversation. It's really kind of this very special thing. So that's and so um had either of you been involved in serious musical projects before you started? I know you said you guys then together did a band. You were in another band and did some stuff, but before you guys came together, I know, Andrew, you said you were working with a lyricist. Were you doing projects, and Laura, were you doing some singing on the side before this all came together?
I think we were both doing various projects, playing in live band situations at the time. You had several projects, I know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we both started playing when we were pretty young, early in our teens, and I don't think either one of us really ever stopped. So, you know, prior to meeting Laura, I had been in, you know, dozens of bands doing various, you know, approaches to music, generally in the sort of rock genre. So, and even after we met and hooked up, both as doing music and as a couple, we went through a number of different phases of trying to find, you know, where are we home? Where are we comfortable? Where do our talents really?
Trying to find our sound.
Yeah, just trying to find what our wheelhouse was, and eventually landed on this sort of Americana mashup of country and folk and rock all put together, and that really just felt like this is it. Like, this is really the best thing that we've done, and so we really started pursuing it vigorously. Thus, you know, leading to 2 albums so far. We're in the middle of working on the next album. It's sort of always ongoing. I mean, the songwriting kind of never really stops. So
I was going to talk about the space between the first album and second album being so small, and you're already working on the third one, which the second one is just about to be released, and you guys are working on number 3 already. That's awesome. That's so the music, but you know, you could always be working on an album in a sense, right? Whenever you write a song, that's material for something in the future. But it sounds like you're almost seriously plotting out that next album already. You know, that's great.
we're hoping that the next album comes out a year from now. We're trying to plan on doing a record a year for the next few years.
Yeah.
Seems to be that we're doing a lot of songwriting, so we really want to get it out there, and we just really having a lot of fun doing it, and it's challenging, and you know, all the way that the world is changing, and sort of getting used to all the various technology challenges of, you know, doing streams, either hosting ourselves or doing a Zoom or a YouTube or a Facebook. Each one has a slightly different, you know, requirement to do, which we're learning quickly.
Yeah, on the job training, right? On the job training.
That's it.
So, uh, how did how did the name of your band come about?
Well, originally when we started um, this project, we were trying it out to see if the songwriting really was going to come, and we had the help of a friend of ours who came in and said, "Oh, let's get together and write some songs." So there was three of us actually originally, um, and I was trying to think of some name that could, you know, show that there were three people involved. And it's always difficult to find a good band name. And somehow I came upon Three Pairs of Boots, and it just seemed to click. And then he quickly left. Uh, he gave us help us. He gave us a little push down the road.
Uh-huh.
He was, an angel of the trail, so to speak.
Yeah.
And off we went. But the name was so good, we just stuck with it. And at various times we referred to, our longtime mix engineers like, oh, he's the third pair of boots. And then maybe if and when we get a full band out on the road, he might come out with us and play bass. Because he was in a band many years ago called the Churchills, where he played bass and sang, and morphed into a really good mix guy. So that's where the name came from. It just, there it was. There was somebody helping us in the beginning, and it just sort of led to that name, and it stuck.
Well, it almost could be kind of like an empty chair kind of thing. Like you said, when you go on the road, that you have this person. It's kind of like that adds to the intrigue. Like, who is the third person? It could be someone different, like you said, and on
I
every
love that.
road outing.
I think
That's cool on the side there.
I think
I
Laura.
love that.
I think Laura hopes that it might be our 17-year-old son who's been playing guitar for a couple of years.
That would be cool. That would, keep it in the family. That's really neat.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that's really neat. I have to tell you too, though. When I was doing some research, to learn more about your music and about the two of you, now, how like the websites try to get you to buy things. Now people are sending me information about boots. I'm getting in my side panel on Facebook. I'm seeing people selling boots to me now.
Oh.
Kidding.
Yeah, I was looking up your name on Facebook, and I did, and all of a sudden the right hand panel I see ads for boots now, and I haven't bought boots in my life really. I'm in Chicago. I should at least have winter boots, guys. I should at least have winter boots in Chicago. I don't. I have gym shoes. But they wanted me to buy some Western boots. All these ads coming down the right side of my Facebook page.
That's
So
hilarious.
yeah, so that's the world we live in, right? How anything we say now becomes an ad for the future.
I
It's in
really
your
actually,
file.
I don't like that when I first saw that a few years back. It's like
Yeah.
I went to Sweetwater to buy some piece of gear, and all of a sudden I've got all these Sweetwater ads.
They're good at that. I know. I was looking at software. I was looking at software for like plugins for Pro Tools and whatnot. And all of a sudden, yeah, I said one thing in Facebook, and all of a sudden I had all these Sweetwater ads down the side of my, yeah.
Right.
They're good.
But boots is a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. Can the two of you talk a little bit about how you combine forces to get each of your songs to its finished forms? I read about it a little bit, and I think it's very fascinating. I want to share that with our viewers, how that comes about each time. It's kind of a part that each of you add to that's a little bit unique.
Yeah, go ahead. You can start on this one.
Well, I guess we each write separately. We each write on our own, and when I finish something that I'm working on, I bring it to Andy, and he sometimes he rearranges it, sometimes he leaves it as it is, and produces it that way, and then he's always working on a new song, and same thing, he brings it to me, and if I feel that the lyrics need to be, a couple of words need to be changed here or there, we work on that. But I think he writes with me in mind. He knows my vocal range, and
Yeah, I try to write songs for her to sing from her perspective, maybe from in a general sense a woman's perspective. It's kind of like writing, like thinking about it like I'm writing a screenplay or something like that, because I am writing the songs for a woman to sing.
Right.
And when I bring them in to her, it's yes or no, that's right for me, that's not right for me,
Uh-huh.
and then through the process of doing a quick demo and then deciding yes it's good enough to go into final production and could possibly make the record. Um, the lyrics are always getting tweaked. Certainly, for the songs I write, she's changing them on the fly as we're recording the demo and the final, always looking for, a better way to sing something and get the same idea
Sure.
across, but maybe a word or two isn't quite working for her as a singer. So there's like constant adjustment. Even I think it's rare when I'll bring a song in and it's like it never gets changed. Like, oh, I'm hearing a different melody on the chorus, or I'm going to change this word here and change this word there, because she's the one who has to sing it and convince people of its content. So
Yeah,
she has to feel comfortable.
basically, I have to believe it.
Right. That's so true. I mean, that's true about so much of music, and even when people make movies, they have to be that character. They have to, and I'm sure many people turn down scripts and things for that same reason. But in music, yeah, you are the vessel that's going to be singing and getting. It has to be believable that it's coming from your heart, even though the lyrics and the melody might have, you know, partially or mostly in many cases. I mean, you share them. You write some songs, he writes some songs, but that 75% of it sometimes might be coming from his mind, from Andrew's mind, and you have to be the believable voice about it, that it really means something to you, that you're feeling it. So that's neat. It's neat that you're so intertwined in the songwriting process, and that both of you are willing to adapt to change. If either one of you wants to change something about what the other person wrote, that's a big part of it, that you guys can adjust.
It definitely keeps my ego in check for sure, or somewhat in check.
Well, I do a little bit of songwriting, and one of the things I always do just for fun is I like cross offs of my lyrics. I like to cross things off because I always say, well, if I ever get famous, which I'm losing hope as I get older, but as I just keep I cross things off. Say if I'm ever famous, this will be my manuscript. They can see what the words used to be before I change them to what the finished form. So I do that just keep my own brain a little bit excited about writing.
I love that.
So. Um, Um, so Andrew, I saw on the band's Facebook page, kind of one of the big albums that kind of influenced you, and I'm gonna ask you in a second, Laura, about your influences in music. But I saw that it was a big blues album that involved Eric Clapton, and thought maybe you could talk about that a little bit, what the meaning of that, how that inspired you to write.
Back when I first started playing, even though I grew up in San Francisco and still live here, uh, I wasn't really drawn to the San Francisco bands that much. I was a Jefferson Airplane fan,
Mhm.
but I really got hooked on the English guys, who essentially were channeling Muddy Waters, Howling Wolf, Lightning Hopkins, Robert Johnson, all
Right.
those guys.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to play by playing to records when I started, and there were several records that were very influential to me. And one of them was the John Mayall with Eric Clapton record. It was, I think, when Eric Clapton was at the absolute height of his powers. It was right in between, and he wasn't in the band with John Mayall for very long. It was right in between him leaving the Yardbirds and starting the Cream.
Right.
John Mayall, of course, went on to have several really good guitar players in that band, all of whom I really like and followed. Mick Taylor, who went on to play with the Stones,
Yeah.
and then Peter Green, who
Fleetwood Mac.
took the rhythm section from John Mayall, Mick
Yeah.
Fleetwood and John McVie, and started Fleetwood Mac.
Right.
But that Eric Clapton record is an encyclopedia of classic blues rock licks. I mean, if you can play what Eric Clapton's playing on that record, you're going to be a really, really good rock blues guitar player that will translate into, I think it translated well for me into folk and into country. I don't think there's that much you know, ground between rock, blues, and country. Like you take the country, great country pickers. I mean, they're right around the corner from the great blues players, you know. So I still know how to play to a lot of that record because I really, really studied that record when I was a
Right.
young kid. And I'm teaching my son, uh, um, although he's taught himself a lot of of how to play, but I've been teaching him one of the Eric Clapton songs off that record, "Steppin' Out," I think, and he's got it almost down from top to bottom. And that's not an easy record to play to. That
Wow.
was when in London, Clapton was extremely well known, even at, you know, he was 20 or 21. There was graffiti in the London subways that said, "Clapton is God." And that's
Oh,
how revered he was back then.
wow.
So that's where it started for me. Clapton, Hendrix, Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, those guys were like, they were my starting point.
So many great guitarists that you mentioned. Yeah, and people who I think listeners, people who are really really into listening to music get that, you know, the connections. But it's really the musicians who are out there playing it like yourselves who say, yeah, I mean, they these bands, they all got their influences came from blues and country, you know, blues big time. And you know, Robert Johnson for Eric Clapton, like you said, that's huge influence, huge.
Yeah, they really they kind of rescued uh, you know, the black music, the blues
Yeah,
music, which was not nearly as well known as it certainly is now. I mean,
absolutely.
so it's a great thing.
And Laura, how about you? How about your some of your either vocal or instrumental, you know, both, you know, bands that you grew up really enjoying, or vocalists that you said, I want to sound a little bit like this person, a little bit like that person, kind of meld it together into your own style.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think I was hit with so many different influences growing up. A lot of pop music, a lot of rock, because I have an older brother, and my grandmother loved country. So, and Johnny Cash was her favorite artist, and my dad would put on salsa music or classical music, and so really the thing that grabbed me was melody. So I loved stuff that was melodical, and I just remember being little and listening to the Carpenters and loving Karen Carpenter's voice and just being attracted to strong women vocalists. Uh, Growing up, I think Chrissy Hind and
Yeah.
Kate Bush, who was producing all her own music, writing her own stuff. Patti
Since she was
Smith,
13,
who
I heard, you know, since she was 13, Kate
yes,
Bush, 13, that one, I think one
yep,
of the biggest albums, some of those songs were written when she was 13.
that's right.
My goodness.
Yeah, she was discovered when she was very young, at 14 or
Yeah.
15. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, just, and then when I got a little older, I discovered that punk scene going on, and that was attractive to me because it brought it all down to like, oh, well, anybody could do this. Everybody has the right, to create
Right.
music, and that's important to me. That's a great message because it's, a form of expression, and it's so beautiful, and it's living poetry. So anyway, that was really fun. But yeah, melody has always been, no matter what genre, it's melody for me.
And then to add to that, harmony, because I hear some beautiful harmonies on the records, and I'm sure both of you craft these harmonies together as the songs come together. But I'm imagining that, is it 100% of those background and harmony vocals are your voice, or did you have a couple other voices helping out, or is it all you?
Right now, it's all me.
It's beautiful.
'Cause
It sounds
we're,
it's
oh,
beautiful to hear those
thank
harmonies
you.
on there and to hear how layered things are on the album. Very, very, it's just so nice. I have a favorite. I'll tell you about that later on. I have a favorite song that you guys have on the album. I'll talk to you about that. And maybe I'll be lucky. That might be one of the songs in your set list today. We'll see what happens. Uh,
We both really like music that has a certain lushness to it. Um, that's why, you know, this uh, project, Three Pairs of Boots, it allows us to sort of bring in all the influences that we have, whether it's Johnny Cash or Patsy Cline or the Cocteau Twins or the Smiths or, you know, Bach or Debussy. It's all there, but there's definitely, at least, and certainly for me, when I'm voicing guitars, um, I'm using a lot of uh, more complex chords, I guess you would say, you know, major sevens and 6/9 chords and things like that. So we both really like that lush, and as she said, very melodic type of sound.
yeah, yeah, and you can hear it in the recordings. the songs that you've made, it's very layered, and there's really some great on the guitar and in vocals, these nice sonic moments that, of melody, harmony, and it's very lush. It's very lush. So you taking what you've listened to and brought it into your music, which is wonderful. So,
Thank you.
so your debut album came out in the middle of 2019, I believe, Gone South, right? Came out middle of 2019 or so. And by the end of the year, the two of you had made some changes in your life that allowed you to make your band the central focus. And I thought maybe you could talk about how you were able to make your music and your family, of course, a priority at that time, to really switch towards all music.
I guess that's really more on me, because I have had two full-time professions for many years. I don't characterize them as jobs, because a job to me is like, okay, you work for somebody else, you go do a 40-hour work week, and that's that. These are really two full-time professions I was doing side by side. Besides playing music, we always had music projects going on. Besides that, I had my own business for many years as a tax accountant, and actually worked with a lot of people in the arts here in the Bay Area, photographers and sculptors and designers, musicians, and made for a very interesting clientele. Not the best bookkeepers, but they a lot of very smart and creative people.
Right.
And that job has had big upside and big downside. The downside being the stress, the deadlines, the responsibility. I did it for a long time, and I knew that at some point I had to and wanted to stop, because it was not my passion. And so it just sort of naturally came to a close. It's hard to step away from a very secure security blanket, so to speak. And that's what one of the songs on the album is actually about, the one that's called Take a Step. But it was, in the end, it was actually an easy decision, and I'm very, very happy that I did that. And I can't even imagine doing everything I've done for Three Pairs of Boots and getting ready for this, recording this second record and doing what we're doing now in terms of promoting and live streaming. And this is now consuming all my time for the most part. So I left the other job behind at just the right time. So that's kind of how it worked.
And you probably wonder now, when you look back, how did you get the things done that you had to get done in this part of your career, because you were working that other full-time profession? When did you get things done, right? 2 a.m?
Essentially,
right?
Yeah. I mean, both the first and the second album were written and recorded while I was working that job. One of the upsides to that job is that there were certain periods of the year when there was very little work to do. The last 2 months of the year, the summer was not that busy, but there are other times, February through the middle of April,
Yeah.
I had no time. I mean, I was 7 days a week at the other job, so I had to essentially sneak in all my writing, recording, whatever, to make these first two records in between the time I had to work at my other business. So it was, days there, nights here. It was very challenging. I had to be very organized and schedule my time very carefully. And it's nice now to just sort of wake up without an alarm clock.
Yeah.
I still get up early, because I was getting up early for many, many years. I'm still
Right.
up at 6 or 7, but to just sort of, grab a cup of coffee, roll into the studio, because we have the studio in the house, and now a live stream room in the house, and just kind of like, walk down the hallway to go to work. It's pretty great.
Yeah, it's a great place to be, I'm sure. And so it's good that you were able to make that transition, as much as you enjoyed that profession and everything. And this is something that's opens a whole new world to your creativity, because it gives you some time to have one focus. So it's a great story. It's a great story that many people, I'm sure, are envious, not jealous, envious that people that get to do that. I've tried to do that in my life. I've tried not to work a full-time job. I tried to do a lot of different things in music. They're all in music, they're all music related things. And that makes me happy. And I guess during the pandemic, my schedule's been a lot different too. So I kind of get up, and when I stay up late and get things done and don't worry so much about the clock. It's nice. I have to at some point go back to things, but it's still music. So it's not a drudgery to get up in the morning. It's still related to music, what I do, in my full-time life. So it's all good.
That's great.
One of the interesting things that some of my clients would ask from time to time is, well, how can you be a tax accountant and a musician? Like, they're like worlds apart. I say, well, there is a common thread there, and the common thread is math.
Yeah.
Because the study of music is mathematical. And when I talk to other musicians, we're speaking in math. Fortunately, the math to me, because I've been playing for so long and have studied music, that the math translates into sound. Like, I don't see math or think about math when somebody says, "Oh, play an E major 7 chord right there," or let's put it in a bar 2/4. Like, it's just, it translates instantly into music, which is really fantastic. It's one of the things I love about it.
Well, it's so funny you mentioned, because just last night I was teaching a vocal lesson, and I started getting mathematical with my student, talking in terms of math, and I could just see the eyes glazing over a little bit. And I said, I know you didn't sign up for a math lesson, you signed up for a music lesson. I said, but they go hand in hand, and I can't help but help you to realize how this works mathematically and what you're about to sing. So I understand right where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's really that you learn music, you study music, and part of it is learning the math of it. And then I wanted to just forget the math and just have it be so ingrained that it was just second nature.
Yeah. I want to talk about the new album. I can't wait to talk about it, because when we talk about the new album, it means you get to play some music, and I want to hear some music. So, Long Rider, tell us about the inspiration for the album. It's a very interesting story that I'm just so excited to hear you share with people. How did the inspiration for that album come about, Long Rider?
Well, our friend Ren was making a documentary about a lady long rider, Bernice, and we became obsessed with that idea and her life story, and it was so interesting to us that I think we started to think about that as a concept for the album. And also Ren had asked us to do a song for the documentary, so it kind of started right there.
It wasn't, that was after we had started working on the album, but it was still early on. And as we got more involved with the film that our friend was shooting, the stories were coming out about Bernice and her journeys as a long rider, and just the universal themes that were bubbling up from that, and it inspired the songwriting on the record, and really influenced the songs, even songs that were not directly related to Bernice's journey, really came about. So it wasn't like we went into the album thinking, oh, we have to find a theme. It just happened.
It really did.
And it worked out great. It was very inspiring and very productive for us. And Bernice's story, the film is out. It's called Lady Long Rider. It's an incredible story.
Yes, everybody needs to see it. It's so great.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I watched a couple of 5-minute mini documentaries or EPKs on YouTube about, and where they talked to her a little bit and maybe talked a little bit about very fascinating. A couple of the interesting things that I learned about the whole process of what she does. I learned that one of her horses logged about 18,000 miles with her, one of her older horses. I learned that she did this to kind of get away from unrequited love. And I hear that in the songs. I hear that thread in the songs, that you were able to be inspired to write songs that kind of talk about that, especially even the title track. I mean, not the title track, but your single that you're promoting right now. I hear it very much in the single, Quitting Time. I also learned that a long ride in the world of equestrians is considered to be about 1,000 miles, right? And she logged 30,000. So she's quite the long rider.
Oh, she is a long rider extraordinaire. You know, East Coast to West Coast, a year. I think one of her trips was 18 months.
Oh my goodness.
And she had a second horse that she would take with her on many of these trips. And her dog rode in a special saddle she had made. So the dog was sitting on top of the horse, riding in the
Wow.
saddle alongside her. I mean, it's fantastic.
That I have to see the documentary. I just have to. I'm fascinated by it. I'm in the Midwest and I don't have a lot of that background, to understand how some of those things happen. Travels by horse all for so many miles, and to just watch that little bit of EPK and hear the stories and how she slept in the back little cupboard of the trailer thing, and my goodness, and the fact that it doesn't sound like she didn't plan to do that. It she like no more than I would plan to do it.
Yeah, she was drawn
Yeah.
to it. She was at a point in her life where she was searching. She was trying to find her path at that point, and it just sort of unfolded naturally for her. And it sounds very not necessarily glamorous, but very positive and uh, but a tremendous amount of hardship and hard work and self-doubt, tough weather. Think about riding a horse for 6 months, 9 months, a year across the United States. That's not easy.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine. Just and I would remember a couple little parts of the documentary. Sleeping on the side of the road, pitching a tent, sleeping on the side of the road, and uh, and yeah, and meeting great people and great experiences. But all the things that you went through to brave the elements to get to that point that they
You
did.
know,
They get how she traveled.
the the fascinating thing that I found that I was so happy about was her experiences with other people, strangers, all along the way. Come in for a meal, put your horses up in our barn. All of this, um, just incredible.
Goodwill.
What's that?
Goodwill.
Yes, incredible goodwill uh, that people showed her. It really made me feel different about this country.
I was going to say, I would think that if anyone had any doubts about the human race, that might restore their hope and their opinion of the human race, that there are good people out there who want to help, that live life of service, and who would just be so glad to just open their house to someone that's traveling like that, or open their kitchen, and the goodwill that I'm sure, and I can't wait to watch this documentary, to see the goodwill that people poured out, strangers, complete strangers, to her.
I think it's interesting that because we've lived in a big city
Hmm.
for all our lives, and I think um, it's in some ways harder to get to know our neighbors uh, as opposed to what she experienced, where she was basically riding through a lot of open country, small towns. My older sister, who lives up at the top of California, lives on 20 acres and built her own house. She's off the grid, but she's got solar and propane. She knows all of her neighbors. Like, she's on first name basis with all of them. And
They depend on each other.
yeah, they do depend upon each other. So she knows her neighbors better than we know our neighbor there and over there. So maybe there's a lesson to be learned there. It's just,
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Um, the first single that you're promoting through audio means, but also through a video, is "Quitting Time," if I understand correctly. You have a video that was actually done for about a year now, but last year was a little tricky. A couple of unique things in 2020 that may have delayed how you wanted to release something that's so important to you. The music and the video. That maybe the fall. It sounded like the album was ready by the fall, and maybe that wasn't the perfect time to release it. That's why we're in January. We're in a new year. Just the goodwill of it being a new year now, I think.
Oh, yeah.
2021. You know, but it looks like it was a lot of fun to make that video too, because I saw some of the snippets on Facebook of you guys filming that.
It was
So
very
it was fun,
exciting.
but
It was very cold.
Yeah.
I've never been colder in my life. So the director wrote a beautiful treatment for that video, but it required me to be out in the wilderness, with bare feet, right? That was the original treatment, was barefooted, and boy, that was tough. That was in the end. She finally let me have my shoes because it was so cold out there. So
yeah, it was last January in Nashville.
Oh, okay. So it
You
was
know,
the winter months.
now for you,
oh yeah,
for a
30
Chicago
degrees.
person like yourself, you know,
Oh yeah,
30 plus degrees is like, okay,
it's
that's
probably
Every
every
day,
day.
yeah.
nothing.
That's
Like,
oh,
you wimp,
that's
you
a
know.
heat wave. That's a heat wave out here in the winter.
But for us lightweights, San Francisco
Oh
people,
boy, yeah.
uh,
Yeah, no, I know. My sister lived in Chicago. When she moved to Florida, we go down to visit her, and she was always bundled to the hilt on a 60-degree night. And I was like, oh, this feels so good, you know. So
Funny.
yeah. Um, well, do you have a specific song that you'd like to start us off with to start to get to hear a little bit of this music? I'm so grateful that you're willing to do this.
Thank you so much.
yeah, the
Sure.
first song we'll perform is it was actually the first song premiered off the record about a month or so ago. It's called "Everywhere I Go," and it is one of the songs that was more directly inspired by Bernice and the long writing experience.
Everywhere I go, I'm home. Everywhere I go, I'm home. I'm never alone. Got those spirits in my saddle. Everywhere I go, I'm home. What's a girl supposed to do after working all her life? Head off to the pasture where quiet let her die. It's time to be bold, head for the horizon. So I swooped down the rocking chair for my Norwegian fjord. Everywhere I go, I'm home. Everywhere I go, I'm home. I'm never alone. Got those spirits in my saddle. Now everywhere I go, I'm home. Freedom's hard work, it's true. You can take my word for it. And it takes a lot of guts to leave the ground behind. Now I ride every day into smiles, where every stranger turns into a friend. 'Cause it's the beginning, not the end. I ride on the edge, on a wave of uncertainty. But that's the beauty, the mystery of a long journey. If you could see what I see, how wonderful people can be. Unexpected generosity. You'd have a new point of view,
about to share the world with you. If you only knew, if you only knew. Everywhere I go, I'm home. Everywhere I go, I'm home. I'm never alone. Got those spirits in my saddle. Oh, everywhere I go, I'm home. Now everywhere I go, I'm home.
Beautiful. Just hearing the two of you, knowing you're playing live, that's what really brings it home for people. I think when you can get out there and be able to sing live and perform live for people to see that, because there's so many people with home studios that can do so much with music, and to just hear the two of you sitting there singing and playing, uh, boy, it just really drives home the talent that's truly here in your group. Just really
Thank you.
something.
Oh,
Thank you.
you're so kind. Thank you.
Uh, and since I get to be the first person to endorse this new live stream format that you have that you're doing, the sound is great. It's really nice. It's a really nice mix. It's a nice mix. The microphones sound great. The guitar sounds mic'd so well. Your vocals sound great. It's cool. I'm kind of excited. I get to be a part of the first run
Thank
here.
you. Thank you, Eddie.
Yes, thank you, Eddie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. I'll thank him too. Thank you, Eddie. Yes, that's great. Wow,
He's our angel on the trail, really.
that's good.
So,
I'm gonna talk a little bit about a little bit about a couple other parts of the album, and you do a couple songs. Actually, a few more questions. I had read that the drums for this album were tracked by Maren Morris's drummer and bandleader Christian Pascal.
That is correct. Great drummer, very nice person. We've never met him. It was all corresponded by email and swapping Pro Tool files back and forth.
Wow, that's inspiring too, because you know before the wave of internet, and even more now in this year that we've been forced to communicate by means of Zoom interviews, or Zoom, even work interviews on Zoom, and work is getting done on Zoom, and emails and Facebook and social media. I always encourage people when I talk to them, people who are just getting started in music, or my students who want to do something with it. I said, it's not so far fetched to reach somebody that you might have never been able to reach many years ago. So look at this. This is a perfect example of how you were able to reach somebody that could really add some great percussion to your music. Someone that's had so much success in the industry, and just by trading emails and files.
oh, yeah.
It was
When technology works,
Yes,
it's great.
yes.
it worked out really good. We used a very good drummer on the first record, who's Bob Ware, Bob Ware's drummer. But
Wow.
I was hearing something a little bit different
Yeah.
for the second record, and I remember I came home one day and I told Laura, I'm going to find a Nashville session guy. She's like, okay, good luck with that. And I came upon Christian, and we wrote to each other. I sent him a copy of the first record. He said he liked it and would be happy to play in the second record. He, of course, has his own recording studio in Nashville, so he works as both a drummer and an engineer. And I sent him one song. I sent him a hard, fast tune, fast shuffle tune. I thought, well, this is a good test to see if it works. He tracked it, sent it back. I played it for Laura. She's like, we're hiring him for the entire record. And I immediately sent him 6 more songs, and it just worked so.
It was the easiest call of my life.
Wow.
It was a very
He's so
easy,
amazing.
seamless way to do it, and we really, really appreciate him playing with us, and for playing so well and really adding so much to me, always when I would play in bands, if the drummer had to be good. If the drummer
Yeah.
wasn't good, didn't matter how good anybody else was in the band. Drummer had to be good.
The timekeeper has to be good, and it has to be something that can really fill out the sound too. It fills out the sound with all the instruments of a drum set and other auxiliary percussion. It fills it out, and also, like you said, they've got to be a good timekeeper. They've got to be.
I almost think of a drummer from a sports analogy point of view. They're like the catcher on a baseball team. The catcher is the guy who's calling the pitches. He's calling out the defensive assignments.
Yeah.
Everybody on the field. He sees everything. The drummer is sort of the same way a lot of times.
That's a great analogy. I never really thought about it from that perspective. It's a great analogy because, yeah, they're at the back of the band seeing everything going on. They're seeing the audience reaction. They're hearing everything, and they really are calling the plays. Yeah, or reacting to like as a catcher would react to what's going on out in the field, and that's amazing. Yeah, that's true. That's really true. In addition to working with Christian, I know that the new album's partially engineered by Bart Schudel and Rob Beaton, both of them who, I was looking at their resumes. Oh my goodness, the resumes of the things that they've done. Both of you have really worked hard to find the right creative team to help you piece everything together at the end after you creative juices put these songs together to help the last yard of the race.
We're so grateful. We're so grateful for Rob and Bart.
Yeah, we're very
known them a long time.
Very fortunate.
Yeah.
Christians, like I mentioned, we've never met him. We don't really know him. And unfortunately, when we were in Nashville shooting the video, he was not there, so we could hook up then. But our mix guys, Bart and Rob, we've known them for a long time. They were both not only good friends, and we worked with them musically, but they were also my clients when I was doing tax work, and so important to have them do that work for us. I'm good in the studio in terms of tracking, but mixing is a whole art in of itself, and they are spectacular at it. So we're very lucky to have them. And now, as it turns out, I have another good friend, longtime friend, and he was also a client, Eddie Kaipo, who's done on-stage inner monitor mixing for many years for Enrique Iglesias and for Gwen Stefani. He's the one who set up our live stream sound. When we first started doing live stream, we had good microphones. We're using the microphones that we used to record in the studio, but we didn't really have much control over it, and the way we were hearing ourselves and hearing whoever we were corresponding with wasn't really dialed in. And so I contacted him after we did a few Zooms and a couple live streams, said, Eddie, you gotta help us. So we want the sound to sound like it's a concert.
Yeah.
And Eddie, we've been working with Eddie the last few weeks, and he's a total pro. So once again, we're very fortunate to have somebody with that knowledge helping us.
It's definitely so beneficial because that allows you, the two of you, to focus more on the creative side, and then when it comes to all the technical stuff, you don't have to get into panic mode. Say, well, how is this going to work, and how are we going to balance that and this? You could be creative, and then they come in and swoop in and help to finish that product up. Wonderful.
It takes a village.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, yeah. Why don't you guys, if you don't mind, maybe play another song for us? I'm going to turn my camera off because they don't need to be watching me while you guys are performing. I'm going to turn my camera off for a minute here and let our audience focus on you guys. Okay.
This song is called "Take a Step," and it was written about my journey leaving my former job and moving into doing music full time.
I've been waiting for this day. Now I can leave it all behind and take a step into the unknown. Never look back, never look back. Where I go, set aside my passion. I delayed my fate. I made the wrong decision. I hope it's not too late. My term is up, my time was served. I'm moving on to chase my dreams. And I've been patient for many a year. Now the day's finally here, it seems. I'm taking a step into the unknown, and I'm never looking back. I got my 3 pairs of boots, and that's all I need. 1 pair for drinking, 1 pair for dancing, 1 pair for everything else. I got my 3 pairs of boots, that's all I need. 3 pairs of boots, that's all I need. Yeah.
Boy, I can't wait to share this video with our audience because they're just gonna be blown away. They really are. You guys are wonderful, wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
You.
And just the wonderful blend of instrument and voice. It's just the perfect balance. And love it, love it, love it.
Thank you so much.
It's been challenging going from producing a full production record with a full band sound on there. And then we started playing live, and it's like, okay, well, how do we translate that down to 1 guitar, 1 singer? So it's been an interesting journey for us in making that transition to not only a recording artist, but performing artists as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of fun.
There are so many artists that most of their time has been spent in the studio for years and years and years and years, and they haven't had that chance for the being out there in public and performing. They thought of themselves as I think about Steely Dan for many years didn't go out and tour until later on. I think about the Alan Parsons Project. They never toured because he had all these different singers singing for him and a lot of different bands in the rock and pop world that were just studio rats. And then they went out there and it talked about like they had to learn a whole new, the performing arts, like you said, and then also just to get some feedback, which I'm sure is something that you guys have gotten some great feedback when you're out there. I know 2020 wasn't a great year for performing out in places, but before that, when you were doing things in bands and things together, to get that feedback from people directly on your music.
Yeah, I mean, before the pandemic, we got a couple of shows under our belt with just the 2 of us.
Okay, great.
And yeah, it was really surprising because we were unsure how we were going to take it from a lush produced album to just really bare bones. But, we liked it once we got out there.
Yeah, a lot of it worked, some of it didn't.
But that's how you know.
You would think, oh, you might really like a song, and then we would play it live. It's like, that one didn't really translate as well as everything else.
Right.
It was certainly a learning experience. One of the first shows we did was at a brewery up in Humboldt County, way out at this beautiful place called Shelter Cove, right on the ocean.
So gorgeous.
And the brewery's kind of set up a little ways from the shore. And one of the coolest things about it, so it's we were on an outdoor stage and lights and the sun setting, it's really beautiful. But right below the brewery, in between the brewery essentially and all the little motels and the beach and the waves and everything, there's a landing strip. And there's like small planes coming in and out, landing, sort of right below the brewery. So you could be having a beer and eating a burger and watching planes come in and out, which you don't normally.
How cool is that? Oh, that sounds amazing. It sounds amazing. Just that I've been at some concerts. Sometimes you could just be there in the summer breeze, and sometimes they're not as the great settings that you just described. But it could be a concert shed with just a big roof and 10,000 people in the pavilion and a lawn behind you, and you could just be in that moment and take in the fresh air and the music, and just it's like heaven. It's and I'm sure that was just such a neat experience to play in that kind of environment with the landing strip. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and they make great beer. Jippo Ale Mill, GYPPO.
Yes, they do.
Do they do it online? Do they have an online? Well, I guess you really can.
Oh
You do
yeah,
it? I don't. Yeah, they have an online presence, huh?
oh yeah.
Well, that's good to know because I don't leave the Midwest that often these days. It's good to know that they have an online way to find them.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, making beer is certainly a lot of people doing it out here on the West Coast.
so it's not just about the wine anymore. It's wine and beer.
Oh yeah, big time beer community up Northern California, all up in Oregon. I think Portland is supposed to have the most local breweries and brew pubs of any city in the United States.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of stuff in the Midwest, but not a concentration like what you're describing. There's not a concentration of it. There certainly are some good microbreweries in different places, and but it sounds like that's really quite a pocket up there.
It seems to be quite the passion, similar to winemaking for sure.
Right, right. Um, so with this album, just like you had said, many of the songs were not necessarily at the beginning part of the thread of Bernice, but they somehow evolved that way, and it kind of turned into like a major concept album for you. Is this next album that you're thinking about? I mean, I feel like I want people to be excited about album 2. I don't want to get them too into 3 yet, but I'm just curious, if you think album 3 will also have a thread to it, or if it's going to be some songs that just have kind of come together in their own ways.
I think it's starting to have a thread. I don't know if it has truly a theme, but I think this one is the thread seems to be just some good stories about bravery and
Courage.
people's courage. So that seems to be where it's starting.
Yes.
And that's what's exciting, because you never know where it's going to completely end up. It's the beginning of a journey now. Album number 3.
Yeah, well, album number 3 is written during 2020, written during the pandemic. So certainly a different mindset than what we had, writing the first and second album.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's the case for a lot of people.
Right, right. Yeah, you see people sometimes releasing a track here or there during 2020, and the mindset was certainly different. People trying to inspire, and then that's what album 3 sounds like. Inspiring people about brave people out there and courage, and that's what's been needed during this time, and will carry on for quite a while. Even when things are much better, people are going to think back to these times and be glad to have songs like the ones that you're both talking about to inspire them and encourage them to carry forward. So I mean, that you're doing a service to people, because we all know how important music is in our lives, that it's a soundtrack to our life, and that it helps us through some hard times, for sure. Helps us through some difficult times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely helping us for the 2020. I don't know what we would have done without it.
No, and it's just so nice that you can still reach people.
Yeah, it's wonderful that there's platforms to be able to do that. It really is, that the platforms, and I think they get better and better every day. Hopefully the platforms, the improvement of how the platforms work and how to reach people, So, I want to talk about the cooking country in just a moment. I'm anxious to talk about that, because I already had lunch, but I was hoping that virtually Andrew might be able to send some food virtually over the internet this afternoon, but I don't know if that's possible. So I made sure I ate lunch first. But I want to talk about that in a minute. I want to tell you that one of my favorite tracks on the album is "I Am the Man." I just love that song. I love the melody. I love the harmony. I love the guitar. I love the vocals. It's just that I a lot of times when I prepare for an interview, you want to hear everything, because you want to really make sure that you can speak about it, And I went back to that track twice, maybe 3 times, because I just really loved it. I really loved it. And no obligation. You don't have to, if that wasn't on your set list today, no worries. No worries at all. But I just, I'm not changing your set list on you or anything, but But I just had to tell you that's just such a beautiful track.
Thank you so much.
That was a song that was the one song that we collaborated with someone else, the filmmaker, Ren Winfield,
Okay.
for Lady Long Rider. She wrote the lyrics to that. And she, um, you know, kept on saying, well, I'm not a songwriter. I don't know if this is right. I don't, if it doesn't work, don't worry. And when I got it, I only had to move a few things around, and the music wrote itself very quickly.
Oh my gosh, Andy wrote the music for that. Like, it seemed like he did it in 10 minutes because he
Wow.
got it, he did it, and then we're in our bedroom, running through it.
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, I love those lyrics so much.
It was interesting
And I
because
love Andy's music.
we had written a lot of songs for the record, and at a certain point, we were looking at what we had and thinking, oh, we're a song or two short of songs that we love. I mean, we had a lot of songs. They all have redeeming qualities, but some are better than others, and some we like and some we love, and we only want songs that we love to get on the record. And we were reviewing a bunch of songs. It was like, well, what song should we pick and sort of, add to the album? We've got like 6 or 7 that we can consider. And it's like, we went through them, and I remember like none of them were like, like just jumped out and said yes.
Yeah.
And I said, well, we've got this other one that we did a little while back that Ren wrote, and somehow I don't know why I didn't play it for you. This is when I was playing the songs for Laura, and I played it for her. She's like, that's the one. Like that has to go on the record. And I was like, yeah, you're right. After we hadn't listened to it for a month or so, when we heard it again, it's just like it was like a no-brainer.
I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad you added that to the record because it's beautiful. And I think when people hear it, I know everyone has a certain way that, and, to promote different singles and the song that feels like the standout track or there's a couple of standout tracks that you really want to have people hear in front of other songs. But that song, if even if it's not one that ends up being one that you promote initially, I'm sure at some point you will, it's going to be the something that people are going to hear and pull it off that album track that people pull off it, or maybe it's something that you have plans to promote heavier, after Quitting Time and other singles. It's a beautiful song, and I think when people hear it, they're going to be blown away.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks. Very encouraging.
Well, we're getting ready to do a live stream concert pretty soon, and that's going to be one of the songs we do.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a few live stream ticketed concerts.
Good.
Starting in February. We're going to play the new album from top to bottom a couple times. We hope to also get out and play the first album once or twice, and then maybe mix and match, our favorites from the 2 albums together. So we're working towards that as well.
Well, you got to be so excited because your new live stream area here and the way it's set up is going to be so cool to that next level now for you. It really comes across so nice. It just looks so professional. It looks so, you see people, all sorts of people try different. We're all trying to do the best we can. Excuse me. We're all trying to do the best we can at home to bring quality content to people. And there's so many artists that sometimes it caught them, in some cases it caught them by surprise. It caught us all by surprise, but maybe they had never done home studio things before, where they had to bring it out to the public. And so people are learning as they go along. And like you said, you had the help of Eddie to really help pull this together. It just looks really, really good and sounds great.
Goodness. Thank you so much.
It's definitely been a process. I mean, we've
Working
always had a
on this.
studio in the house, but as we this transitioned into doing all these live streams, we had the studio in one bedroom, and then there was a little tiny bedroom that was just the tracking room.
Right.
And that turned into the live stream room as well. But the equipment quickly and the demands of the live stream quickly outstripped that space. I mean, literally, by the end of us using that space, the camera was out in the hallway. The monitor that we look at is like on a table in the doorway.
Everything's Jerry
Right.
We couldn't even get into the room. So we made big decision that we were just going to give up our master bedroom, and we moved the entire studio and live stream into the master bedroom, which is the biggest bedroom in the house, and set up the live stream. And not only Eddie, who's helped us with the sound, but we have another good friend, longtime friend of ours, who was the third pair of boots, by the way, Happy Sanchez, who we've known for a long time. Happy and I and a few other people did a Latin music label back in the 90s. We started a band back then called Los Mocosos. He's still doing Los Mocosos, but he's a very knowledgeable and inventive guy. And he saw one or two of our live streams. He said, "Oh, he goes, I'm bringing my lights over because it looks like you're in a prison cell or getting your mugshot taken." So the reason the lights look so good is because he brought over this complete lighting set and set it up for us and set up a few different scenes. And actually in this room, this is the front of the house, and so there's 3 windows back here that kind of go at an angle. And we initially set up the blackout curtain in front of it, but we lost a bunch of space and we couldn't get as wide of an angle as we wanted. So I called Happy. I said, "Well, we're gonna have to redo this. We're thinking about trying to get the blackout curtain to be against the wall, hanging on the curtain rods there, but it doesn't fit on the curtain rods." So he said, "I'll come over tomorrow." So he comes over. We go to the hardware store. He buys 2 10-foot lengths of pipe, hacksaws to the exact length for each of the windows as a curtain rod.
Yeah.
We hung the blackout curtains on pipe, acting as curtain rods, and it opened up the space. Gained more room in terms of depth and width, and that worked out really well for us.
It looks so good when I look back at that curtain because you can see the color, the lights, like you said, the light set that he brought over. You could see the colors on the lights. It just looks so professional, and I'm really happy for you guys because I know it's another step in the process for it. It just looks so good. It looks so good.
Oh, thank you, Happy.
Yeah. Another significant person who's helped us.
Yes.
Now we don't want to waste that space right now. Can you do another song for us? Would you mind doing another song for us?
Sure.
To.
This one is called My Best Friend, and it's about the best friend that we both had for, since we first started playing.
Strung with 6 strands of metal, how can a piece of wood take us so many places? Love song or flamenco strum, play a reggae group or 12-bar blues. Here's the joy with him by my side. He's never let me down. Even in my darkest hour, my best friend's always around. Country swing or West Montgomery jazz, crunch, heavy metal, some take it to a whole new level. 1967, what did we think when we heard Purple Haze? Can you really do that with a guitar? Years of joy with him by my side. He's never let me down. Even in my darkest hour, my best friend's always around. Travel the world without leaving home. Plug it into taste his life to savor when the fire broke out. Years of joy with him by my side. He's never let me down. Even in my darkest hour, my best friend's always around. 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 My Martin, my Telly, and my Dobro.
I love it. I love it. It's it's always so neat to hear songs that make specific references to parts of our lives. That I think it connects the audience with us with the artist a lot of times. Talking about Purple Haze, talking about the different guitar brands. It just kind of connects, like sharing experiences. Like, oh, I remember that, or I remember thinking that, or the first time I heard a record by somebody, or the first time I heard someone play guitar or sing. I love that. I love those references.
It was a song I really loved writing
Yeah.
because I've been playing guitar since I was 12, and it really truly has been a very good friend to me through the years. And it was fun referencing all the different things I may have played at various times. Reggae and blues and country and Jimi Hendrix. It was a fun song, like I said, to write.
I absolutely love it. I love those references, and it just makes that connection, and it puts the audience in the mind of the songwriter, in a sense of like, oh, I'd shared experience, or just that it creates a visual picture of a lifetime of guitar.
It's got, and I was able to weave that story, and that I loved about B.B. King, which I think is a true story, but when he was a young guy playing, he was at some club, and fire broke out as a result of a fight, over a woman, and he ran back in the club and grabbed his, to save his guitar, and he came back out. I think that's when he actually first put a name to his guitar. That's when Lucille first arrived on the scene. He started naming his guitar.
So now you've created some reading homework for me this weekend, because I have his autobiography. Now you've created some reading homework, because I want to read more about that. So now I'm gonna get in trouble with my wife this weekend, and I'm gonna be behind a book all weekend. So now, thanks, Andrew. Thanks for that. No, I'm just joking. I'm joking. But yeah, I'm anxious to read about that. Because I do have his autobiography, and read what was happening there. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Got to talk about cooking country. We got to talk about cooking country. It was painful for me to watch, because I love food, and I know I can't cook like that. I know I can't cook. But okay. Let me say this. Maybe I can. You did inspire me. You certainly inspired me, because maybe I can cook better than I think maybe I could. I watched it. I watched you making those ribs Italian style, and I'm no good in the kitchen. I could ruin a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I just not my. I cook outside. I do the grill. I do the grill cooking, but I'm afraid of the kitchen. And you made it look easy to make that recipe, and I was doing so well. I was feeling good about making it, and then you guys performed a song called "It Ain't Easy," and I thought, oh, I thought you were trying to convince me it was easy. No, I love the song. I love the recipe, both.
That was I didn't think about that, but that's a funny juxtaposition.
Well, but you know what? On the YouTube page, you said how did you word it? You said cooking country, or you said Italian ribs, whatever the actual resident said, the recipe, and then you said "It Ain't Easy," the song. So it kind of helped. It kind of helped me to separate the two. For a moment there, I was just on a fence about, man, I think I could do this, but they just told me it's not easy. So no, I love the song. The song's beautiful, and the cooking was. You really did make it look easy. You really did, and.
It's some of the chefs who inspire me are chefs whose show I can watch and literally make the dish watching them, like Lydia Bastianich, famous New York restaurateur. I remember watching her show in the kitchen a few years ago, and she was making some pasta dish. And like, I can make that just by watching her. So I got the ingredients, and the next night I had the video on, and I watched the first step. Okay, pause, and I start on the first step, and then unpause, watch the next step, pause. I literally made that dish just by watching her show. The Barefoot Contessa.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay.
Her cooking is so good, but it's really down home, comfort food, simple. I mean, simple in a general sense.
It's not overcomplicated.
Yeah, it's not overcomplicated. It's not, French Laundry, 1,700 ingredients kind of thing.
Mhm.
And we're big comfort food fans anyway. I've always cooked. Since I was in my early 20s, I discovered that was one of the easiest ways to get a woman to go on a date with me if I offered to cook her dinner. And I think it helped in ruining Laura, because
Most certainly did.
when we first got together and we're doing the songwriting recording project, the three of us would get together, the lyricist and myself and Laura, we'd get together 2-3 times a week and write and record a song right then and there. And then afterwards we would go upstairs, and I was usually making a chicken stir-fry dinner that she still remembers.
I mean, can you imagine? Like, rehearse, record, then he makes dinner. I mean,
Right. Wow. Wow.
talk about sweeping you off your feet.
Yeah.
I think there's a general connection to me between food, cooking, and music, in that they both have the ability to allow me to forget about everything else in my life. Like, I could forget about work. There's, when you go into a rehearsal room, you're leaving everything at the door, everything in your life, whatever problems, things that you have to go through, work, whatever it is. They're always left at the door as I walk into the rehearsal. And the same thing is for cooking for me. Those 2 or 3 hours I'm cooking, I'm not really thinking about anything else other than cooking. And also, when you're making a meal, when you're having friends come over or just cooking for your family, there's this timing issue where all the different pieces of the puzzle have to, come out at the same time. It's like recording a song and mixing it and getting it all to fit together. It's similar when you're cooking. So there's some connection there for me.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that, music and cooking are two big things that they can be huge releases from the everyday, the everyday pressures of life, and just the stress of a busy day, and just to be able to lose yourself in the kitchen. And
Each episode does have a disclaimer.
I saw that disclaimer, and I was going to say, I don't think you're going to have to use that disclaimer much longer, because I think they're going to take the word professional and put it in front of your name, because I do think that, the disclaimer, can I say this disclaimer? Do you mind if I share that? I see if I get it right here. I'm not a professional chef, but I just love to cook for my family. Is that right?
Basically, yes.
In so many words, I probably missed a couple of.
You got it. You got
Okay.
the gist.
The
The other thing about doing those shows is that we have never done any kind of filmmaking, video, other than having other people shoot videos for us for music. So we went into making the Cookin' and Country series, which we've done 5 episodes so far, absolutely knowing nothing. We bought a camera, we bought a couple lights, and then at the end of the first episode, we talked about all the things we did wrong and tried to fix them, and then we did the next one, and then realized at the end of that one that there was a whole new set of things we did wrong. So we kept on trying to improve. So I think by the time we ended up doing the 5th one, we kind of got a fair amount of things right finally. We're planning on doing 5 more, but we've drafted our friend Happy Sanchez, who's going to come in and shoot and edit for us. So that's the
Well,
plan.
once again, that's great because it frees you up to focus on the creative of making the meal and not worrying about the tech of filming it all. 'Cause that can be very daunting. It'd be very daunting.
Oh, it's like one of the episodes where I made a souffle. Uh, I think it was maybe the first or second episode we shot, but we didn't realize that this particular one was going to go long or longer than we expected. And right when the souffle was about to come out of the oven, and I don't know if you've ever cooked a souffle, like you put it in the oven and that's it. You can't open the oven to check on it. It just, when it's done, and you have to just trust that 50 minutes, according to the recipe, well, that's when it's going to be ready.
Right.
And right before that happened, the batteries and the cameras ran out.
Oh,
So we had to charge them up, and a couple hours later, we got back to filming it again. I had to make another whole souffle and wait for it to cook. So first the batteries had to charge, and while I was charging, I was, redoing the souffle and putting it back in the oven. And
We've since bought a power cord.
yes, we now have power batteries for the. That was one of the things afterwards,
rookie
like.
mistake. We're sorry.
Yes, definitely a rookie
We're
mistake.
sorry, America.
but you know what? When you're on like episode 15 and I should say season 15 of your cooking series, and you look back at season 1, 14 more seasons, and you say you could laugh about it now. You know that you've made progress in 5 episodes, so it's okay. Laugh about it, and maybe it's something for the blooper reel later on to say, hey, this is how we started.
We actually, I think Laura was shooting and editing the videos, and she had put together a blooper reel after one of the first episodes, and it almost got into the final cut, but yeah.
There's something about people enjoying knowing that none of us are perfect, because we know we're not perfect ourselves, and so we like to see that other people are humble enough to acknowledge that by showing a blooper. And something funny relating to music, I know Paul McCartney has said that he makes mistakes on lyrics sometimes of his own songs on stage, and people cheer and chant, and they're so excited. And people ask him, is that intentional? He said, I'm not doing it intentionally, but people love that because it just shows that we're all human and we all have that ability to make a mistake.
I agree. I love Paul McCartney, by the way, but yeah.
Yes,
So
me
true.
too.
We try to, I'm a perfectionist when it comes to many things. Had to be doing tax work because when you're doing tax returns for people, they have to be perfect. You can't make a mistake. And similarly in the studio, I'm trying to do that. But when we play live, I know I'm going to make a mistake here or there, and it doesn't matter as long as to me, what's much more important is the feel. Am I getting the feel right? Am I getting am I comfortable playing? Am I getting the right emotions from it? So
Yeah.
I don't really worry about if I make a mistake or hit a wrong note when I'm playing live as much as certainly in recording where I'm just like focused on all the details.
Well, it makes each performance unique too. If you do something a little different, maybe you play a different chord, maybe you do something a little different. Some people are so concerned with reproducing their sound from the studio onto the stage, it almost is like just listening to the album again, which is cool in its own way. It's not a bad thing, but when you go to see a live concert, sometimes you like to see things mixed up a little bit. Maybe you take the chord path a little bit differently, or by accident or on purpose. Either way, or you do something different at the bridge, or the vocals sound a little different, and that's what makes a live experience so different than the studio.
I think for us, live, when people come to see us, it's going to be a completely different experience than the album. The songs are the same, the melodies, generally speaking, are the same, but live in this stripped down version, there's a lot more room for improvising and living the song a little bit more and continuing having that song expand for us in the way we perform it. So it's a really nice thing to see.
Yeah. Do you think when we get to a point that we can be on the road again and we can see our favorite artists, performing and touring, do you see yourselves traveling, maybe not by horse like Bernice, but do you see yourself traveling across the country and doing things in other parts of the country, or do you see yourself as doing mostly touring on the West Coast, or what do you envision for your lives?
Oh, we'd love to travel around the country. I think that would be
Yeah, I think
wonderful.
I'm really looking forward to it. I really, there's so much.
I have to find a cat sitter
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
aside from them because my cats are really used to me right now. So.
there's
right.
so much of the United States that we haven't seen.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when we went back to Nashville to shoot the video, that was the first time we'd been in Nashville. Uh, so,
We love Chicago. Oh my gosh.
yeah, Chicago was great. We went there a few
Fantastic
years
town.
back. So I could see us, getting a big Airstream or something like that, or a big Winnebago, and just hitting the road uh, that way. Um, it'll be interesting to see how we work that out. Will we go out and play just the two of us, or at times will we pick up a bass player and a drummer
That would be fun.
come out? I think there's going to be several stages before we get to, playing, 5,000, 10,000 people at a festival, where we actually have like legitimate tour buses. I don't, see that happening. But you just have to be ready for any possibility. I could see us just jumping in the car
Yeah.
and going around and touring as a duo, which would be great.
There are some really cool venues in Chicago that lend themselves to an intimate concert like you described there. There's some really neat venues. That's why I'm selfishly asking, about, oh, I wonder if they'll ever coast this way towards Chicago, and then also,
Absolutely.
oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. And, sometimes it's just the difference of a song that makes the difference between, like you said, maybe starting with some smaller places and playing bigger places. Sometimes one song kicks in and just touches the heartstrings, and before you know it, you are sooner than you expected playing for larger rooms, because it's the power of this, of sometimes a single song or a single lyric. Even you never know that just hits the right place.
That's one of the great things that I love about playing and writing is that it's this profession is not Groundhog Day. It's not really the same thing every day like
No.
other jobs can be. It's unexpected. You meet lots of great people, new places.
We'll be calling you about bookings.
Yes, please do,
I
please
mean,
do.
and even
So
the
you made
idea
another connection.
of jumping in a car or or an Airstream or something like that. There's so many incredible campgrounds all over the states.
Yes, there are.
You do a little fishing,
You make a vacation out of it.
do a little
Yeah, we'd
horseback
love to do that.
riding, and play some dates. I mean, it's just seems like a lot of fun, and we'll have a little more free time once the kid gets off to college.
Right, right. Well, my gears are turning already thinking about venues. So yeah, please do get in touch, because
Oh, great.
believe me, my gears are already turning. So,
Awesome.
and I do kind of work in that kind of world a little bit too, a little bit. I like I said, I don't, just like you guys are describing. I never really wanted to work 40-hour a week for one person, and I've done that at some point in my life for sure, but not anymore. I just kind of do a little bit of everything, you know. Or if I
Sweet.
do work full time, it's in the music,
Love that.
That's great. You've managed to get that working for you.
It's a work in progress. How's that? It's a work in progress, and I'm not going to be retiring anytime soon. But at least I'm doing what I love to do, so I could do it for a while. Then, since it's something I love, I'm not worried about doing it into my later years. You know. So,
Beautiful.
can you give us one more song today?
We do have one more worked up that we can pull out.
Let's
Which
see.
one was
See
it?
Our set listy. Do
Oh, that
you
one.
want to do Angels?
Let's see. Where do I have to be?
Angels,
These songs,
Summer of Love.
once we write them, and certainly for me, I'll write them in a certain key, but that's like literally the first thing that we have to find out, or that I have to find out, like what's the right key for Laura. So
Right.
I'm constantly, shifting the capo up and down or open tuning, and
Can I ask you a question about that? Is there a special key that you like to write in, Andrew, that you start in? Sometimes you just feel like just it flows so well in a certain key. Is there a certain key that you find yourself going to a lot?
I mean, I love tuning the E string down to a D and playing that. But I will just sort of randomly, capo around or open tuning in different ways when I am starting to write a song, just kind of searching for the right sound. You know, you can play a song with the capo on the 3rd fret or the 5th fret, and they just sound, you're playing exactly the same chord structure, they just sound different.
Right.
The keys sound different. So I mean, I love playing in the key of D. Tune the low E string down to a D. So I think that's, if I had like to pick an absolute favorite, that's it. But I really try to vary things when I'm writing, and I'm trying to always think about, you know, where is her wheelhouse? Where is her?
Thank you.
You know, where she's in that, you know, that sweet spot. in
Right,
her
right.
Vocals. Let's make sure this is in tune. This one is called Angels of the Trail.
Is it luck? Is it good fortune? Is it just happenstance? Seems to be a little too often coincidence. Whenever I reach a dead end and I don't know where to turn, out of the blue, when least expected, good advice from which to learn. There was always someone looking out for me, to point me in the right direction, to help me see the forest for the tree, my angels of the trail. When I was down to my last dollar and all alone on the road, somehow I always had an offer, a place to stay, a meal to eat. A stranger turned into a friend. Big city, back country, no matter who gave a helping hand. Honest people coming together, let's give thanks for this great land. 'Cause there is always someone looking out for me, to point me in the right direction, to help me see the forest for the tree, my angels of the trail. My angels, my angels, my angels. Come on, angels. Well, I've been blessed from up above. Now I have things to spread around. So it's my turn to play the angel to someone else who's falling down. And there is always someone looking out for me, to point me in the right direction, to help me see the forest for the tree, my angels of the trail, my angels of the trail, my angels, my angels, my angels. Come on, angels.
Wow, guys, just wonderful, just wonderful music, wonderful music. I'm sure you're so excited about the new album being released to get that feedback from people as you continue to perform and as they start to hear the full album. I'm sure you're so excited.
We are.
Yeah, I'm very curious. We've been sitting on it for a while. It was supposed to be released last summer, and for the obvious reasons, it wasn't. It didn't feel right, of course, to release something that we felt so positive and we thought was providing a very positive point of view on some subjects. It wasn't the right time to put that out. And things were so unsure, and now they've become a lot more, or a lot clearer about what we may all be doing and where we all should be heading. So it seemed like the right time to put out a positive message.
I think so. It feels good. It feels like the right time, and people need it. It's a service you're doing for people because they, it's going to help them. It's going to help people who get to hear your music to transition into a better time, for sure.
We hope so. We hope it helps.
So I just want to remind people who are going to watch this interview that Long Rider, the new album from Three Pairs of Boots, it's going to be coming out in January 29th. So mark your calendar, set an alarm on your phone, whatever it is that you do, put it in your Google Calendar, but make sure that you check it out on January 29th, that you pick it up and check it out and listen to it on repeat many, many times. And I just want to thank you both so much for your time today, and such a complete treat to have you perform for us. That's just it's something that we don't always have the luxury of the getting to do. So thank you for that. That's an extra treat.
Thank you. It was such a joy, and you're so lovely, and we're just so happy to be able to do this today.
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity. It's we're looking for opportunities to play, so it's lovely to be able to do this with you. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you so much. Thank you.